Hey everybody, this is Kayla with Becky's Graphic Design in Nashville, Tennessee. Today I'm going to do a quick rundown on using the interface for a cool software called ID Tasker. Here I am on the website for ID Tasker. This is run by my friend Robert. He has made a truly incredible program that can really speed up your workflow in Adobe InDesign. In fact, this program can work outside of InDesign as well. For example, you can have the program open up Photoshop or Illustrator, do things in either of those two programs, and then send items back to InDesign and update all the links. But this is just going to be a brief video explaining the general interface for the software. So let's go and launch the program. I'm going to go to my File Explorer, and let's go ahead and launch the program. Now, I do not have InDesign open at the moment. The program is going to go ahead and launch that program for me. Now, if you have not stored your key for the program, here's where you will need to enter it. I do have my key stored, however, it asks me again sometimes, usually at my first session, if I would like to enter my key again. That's okay, I'm going to skip that by simply clicking OK. If you do not yet have your key for the program, you need to contact Robert, the creator of this program, in order to get a key. Let's click OK. Alright, the program is now launching InDesign for me. ID Tasker is going to tell me that I don't have any document open yet. That's fine. Some functionality may be limited since we don't have any document to interact with. I'll bring my program over here. Alright. And here is our interface. Now, ID Tasker can be a bit overwhelming when you first begin using it. There is a lot going on here, far more than I know how to use myself. But let's do a quick rundown of how to utilize this particular interface. The first thing I want to show you is this toggle button here in the corner. This toggle button is going to allow us to change the size of our interface and change the size of the task list at the top and the object list at the bottom. By toggling through the different states, we can switch to a vertical layout versus a horizontal layout and switch the divisions of each. I like to typically use it on the half and half. Alright, next we are going to look at this section right here. This little area can be used for two different things. Number one, if for some reason we skipped that registration stage and we need to re-enter our key for the software, we can click Control-Shift-Alt and then right-click. That is going to open up this dialog box, which will allow you to enter in your key. Something you may notice is that ID Tasker always stays on top of every other program, regardless of what you have clicked. Now, if we want to change that stack order or the Z depth of our interface and allow ID Tasker to go behind other items or programs, we can again utilize this white space right here. We are going to use Control-Shift-Alt, and then we will double left-click. And now, we will be able to drag other items on top of ID Tasker and allow the Z depth to change rather than staying on top at all times. Alright, next we are going to look at the Load Tasks button. When we open Load Tasks, ID Tasker is going to open a File Explorer and allow us to look for .txt files that we can load in basically as templates to list tasks and functions. So here, let's go ahead and load in, this one right here. If I would like to expand this task to see the details of it, we can double-click it, and it will show me each of the specific details for each of the items in this task list. The main difference here in the top and the bottom of this program is that the top is utilized for modifying mainly the columns down here in the bottom. For example, this task is one that all it does is modify the columns at the bottom. It's going to add an additional column for the PPI, or the pixels per inch of an image. Essentially what this is a filter. I don't need this particular task in order to accomplish my goal. Instead, it's going to make things easier for me as a creator to see things labeled down here in the bottom when it corresponds to the items. We don't have any items loaded right now, so there's nothing to see. But let's go ahead and press this play button at the top, which is going to modify these columns at the bottom. Now we can see there is this miscellaneous column here for the item link and the file path. Or let's say for some reason I wanted to see another column. Let's say we wanted to show another column for ovals, sure. Now when we run this again, you'll notice here at the end, we now have a column for ovals. I can stretch this out, make it a little bigger by dragging it out to the side. Alright, next, let's go ahead and open up a document in order that we can utilize our bottom panel here for objects. Alright, so here's a document. Let's run a task on this document. However, I no longer need what I have here. I'm going to get rid of it. In order to clear everything here at the top, we are going to right-click on any of the tasks and tell it to clear everything. Let's go ahead and load in a new task. We are going to load in this one right here. This one's a fairly complicated task. It has a lot of things to it. Alright, so we've got some things going on here. Let's kind of walk through this step by step. So the point of this particular task and each of the items in this task is to open up Photoshop and then run a couple of Photoshop actions, these do actions, on the photos. Then it will close Photoshop, reactivate InDesign, wait for just a moment, and then it will relink or update the selected links that I have. Then it is going to resample those linked files at 300 pixels per inch. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. But let's say that I only wanted to convert these images to a TIFF. Let's say that I didn't want to do the CMYK part of this particular test. If I wanted to get rid of this particular action, you might expect that you would right-click it and tell it to delete. However, what we are going to do is use this drop-down tool, and then we're going to select this blank space. That's going to get rid of that action. So there's nothing here that's going to modify any of the columns at the bottom. These tasks are all going to run through and modify the objects at the bottom. For this particular task, we are interacting with objects. Our images here, these are both objects. So we need to load objects for this particular document. Now, if I want to load just information for this document, then I would select it here. If I wanted to load information for both images, I could select both of them. However, if I want to load information for the whole document, then I could leave everything unselected. So what's going on in this section? Here's how we're going to load our object information. You'll notice these little checkboxes. If I hover over them, they tell me what they do. If I check this checkboxes, it's going to load information from the active document. If I leave it unchecked, it's going to load information from all the open documents. So for this particular project, it doesn't really matter. I could check it or uncheck it. It's going to do the same thing. This one, when it checked, it loads only the base level information. For now, we are going to uncheck this so we can see all of the information that loads in. This button is going to load in information about our objects, and this one is going to load in information just about the links, meaning the file path links and the internal links concerning those objects. When I click Load Objects, you'll notice a little counter begin right here. It is currently counting each of the objects here. Now this looks like a whole lot of information. Let's look briefly at our types. So we have the document itself. Underneath that is a spread. Underneath that is a page. on that page is a rectangle, and contained within the rectangle is an image. This is what we're concerned with, is these images. Now, how do we filter out to see just the images? If I right-click on this column, you're going to see some options up here. These exclamation marks indicate actions. So if I do exclamation none, it is going to show me none of the items here below. If I right-click again, I can select just image, just document, whatever it is that I want to see. Let's select image. Now, if I go over here to this column, this is a very important one. If I wanted to check all of these boxes without needing to do it manually, if I had hundreds of them, I wouldn't want to click them manually. I would right-click, and then I would tell it to select the visible. Now it's going to select all of the checkboxes that are showing. To do the opposite, I would right-click and tell it to unselect all the visible. Let's go ahead and select the visible again. And I think that's all we're going to look at for now. Obviously, there is much more we can do here. There's all sorts of things we can sort and look at. We can look at the item length, the file path. We're going to go ahead now and run our action here. Let's play the action by utilizing this double forward button at the bottom. This button is going to indicate modifications on any checked items in this list. If I only wanted to run the action on the top box, then I would simply uncheck this one. Or if I wanted to do vice versa, such as this, that's fine. We're going to run this action on both of the items we have here. So let's go ahead and make sure we're clicked onto our task. Then we are going to press our double forward button. What this little pop-up box means is we would like to run from the top or from the current spot. If I click forward or yes, then it is going to run this action from the top of the list down to the bottom. If I click no, it's going to start elsewhere and move from there. So let's click yes. Now what we're going to see is a launch in Photoshop. Nothing happened in Photoshop. That's because I forgot a step here. So we need to add an additional step in order to make ID Tasker open up the documents. See, right now it is opening the application and then attempting to do the action on no document. I forgot to add in the step about opening the link. Now, how do we add an additional rule in here? If I want to add something, I'm going to right-click, and then we have these two options, add blank and insert blank. Add blank is going to add an open line underneath. Insert blank is going to add an open line above. I want to add an open line above, so we're going to click insert blank. And now I'm going to add the rule that I need. We're going to do a link rule. We are going to find Photoshop open link. There we go. Now let's try this again. I'm going to click at the top of my task. We've still got our two items checkboxed at the bottom, and let's click play. All right, there we go. We're running Photoshop over here on this screen where y'all can't see it. Very good. All right, now let's come back to our document and see what we've got going on over here. Ah, perfect. Okay, so you'll notice that now up here in my links panel, I can see that my images are now labeled as TIFFs, and they have also been run through the 300 pixels per inch task, which matches the effective and actual PPI to 300, which is a very useful script to have for print-on-demand books. They oftentimes want a true 300 pixels per inch in those files. Other than that, I have other tasks where I could run a CMYK conversion, pretty much anything you could imagine with a Photoshop action that you can run on all of your files directly through InDesign Tasker. Now you'll notice InDesign Tasker is consistent with what it has loaded down here in the object panel. If I scroll over here to the contents column, you'll notice that it still has the information loaded for the JPEGs. So if I wanted to continue to run Photoshop actions or other tasks on these TIFFs, I would need to reload the information for the TIFFs into my panel here in the bottom, or else what I would be doing is running tasks on these JPEGs, not the TIFFs. Just something to keep in mind when you're using this program. Now you'll notice we didn't even touch the rest of these buttons at the bottom. We can load documents, we can load text, we can load tables and styles, everything all the way down to hyperlinks here at the end with multiple options per each of these sections. I could load in just the cross-references for my documents, just the hyperlinks, just the text sources. ID Tasker works very similarly to the way that manually working with InDesign does. Every time that we have an item checkboxed down here in our list, such as we do with our objects, it is exactly as if I had clicked each of these items and then manually done each of these actions on those items. In this way, ID Tasker is extremely dynamic because we can tell it to click certain objects and then do certain things to them instead of doing them all in one sweep, or to doing them without as much control as we would with a typical script. I hope you all found this helpful. This simple interface video, we have learned how to open up our registration in our key section here at the top. We have learned how to change the Z depth of our software, how to toggle between different states in our software. We have learned how to load in tasks, how to remove tasks from our list, and how to add tasks to our list, and then how to interact with our panel down here at the bottom. So I hope y'all found this helpful. If it was, leave a like, leave a comment below. Make sure you go and check out Robert over at idtasker.com. Try out his program. There is a trial, a demo of it. And of course, the full version is not free. This is a very advanced program. So go over and give Robert some love. Like I said, idtasker.com. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.